Hey, everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan. And boy, I feel like I could just go on and on and on today. Every day, there are 50 some stories that I could talk about, but today I chose just 3. And why? Because I want to show you that the wind is returning. What do I mean by the wind? Well, imagine the cryptocurrency space is a big 6-masted schooner out on the ocean. And in 2017, we had a relentless driving wind up to those sails, which were taking us to exactly where we wanted to go. And then in 2018, all of a sudden, the wind just stopped. And we have been just being tossed about out in the ocean for months now, with even some pirates going by. We can look at the stars at night. We know exactly where we want to go, but we have had no wind. These 3 stories will show you that the wind is returning. The first one is about the Japanese yen. It has overtaken the US dollar in Bitcoin trading in the last 24 hours. 49% of Bitcoin is being traded in yen. And why is this important? I'll tell you, because the regulatory clarity in this country has taken some progressive steps forward quicker than other parts of the world. And in doing so, it has brought the stamp of approval, the validity, and the assuredness for the institutional investors and the retail investors that this is a valid space to be in. Secondly, just a couple of days ago, it was announced that there is going to be a first Japanese yen pegged stablecoin. This is very much like Tether. So imagine now that the Japanese have this same tool that has been used in other parts of the world in regards to Tether. Now Japanese are going to have their own version of Tether with a Japanese yen pegged stablecoin. This is big news here. All right, the second story. Yeah, I just want to make one more comment. Whether you own Bitcoin or not, it is important to always follow it. Why? Because it does set the mood, and it is driving the market sentiment. No matter how much decoupling or fiat pairing has been done with other coins out there, it is still the one that everyone pays attention to. So we do need to always know that should Bitcoin get back on track, those retail investors that exited the space will have a change of heart to get back in. Those that are sitting on the sidelines watching will now just be ready to enter again. And the institutional investors are going to get excited if they can see that they can bring some great returns to their clients. Okay, this is a big story. This is a really big story. This is Fidelity Digital Assets, and they are on track. They didn't delay like the announcements that came from Bakkt and Van Eck. They are scheduled for a March launch. This is really, really good news. They have also been able to overcome the true last barrier, and that is custody. So they are going to offer the custody and trading services for cryptocurrency. If you don't know Fidelity, they actually maintain 7.2 trillion in assets. They are a behemoth of a company in the US, and they have decidedly put their anchor in the water, and they are here to stay. And so if you listen to this particular interview, which has Brian Kelly, he's the portfolio manager of BKCM Digital, you will see that it is now imperative that you have a strategy in investing in this space. And if you are not going to invest in this space, boy, you better have a really good reason. As a portfolio manager, he sees that in 3 to 6 months, the proverbial herd will start to all go in the same direction. And that herd will enter the market with new, fresh capital. In fact, he goes on to say that he won't be surprised at all if in Q1 of 2019 we hear that companies like E-Trade, Schwab, and Vanguard have already had something in the works going on in the background. And I think he has his ear to the ground, so I am sure he hears whispers out there. The third story is truly big too. It's R3 and SBI Holdings. They become partners in a very big way. This is a $4.5 million investment by SBI. They are going to take a 60% stake. It is not just a Japanese play. It is to push DLT, the distributed ledger technology, into Japan and beyond. And what do I mean by beyond? Well, let's just see the synergy that these two have. SBI has deep working offices in Malaysia, Singapore, India, Sri Lanka, South Korea, China, both Beijing and Shanghai, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Philippines, Indonesia, Brunei, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand. And then what does R3 bring to SBI? Well, they can now also join in the 300 of the world's largest companies, financial service firms, central banks, regulators, and trade associations that R3 works with. This is a powerful, powerful joint venture. And you can see here that it also means big things for XRP. Back on December 5th, R3 launched the Universal Settier application, which was to facilitate global payments on Corda, and XRP was the first settlement mechanism to be announced. So you can see now that with SBI involved in this joint venture, who absolutely supports XRP like nobody I've ever seen done before, Mr. Kitao really is going to be able to push XRP across any payment scheme. This is big news, so this is one of those big blasts of winds that are coming to the space. And if you don't really understand how important SBI is to the equation, I found something that might be new for you. This is actually an annual report, 2018, and you can see on all these pages, and I'll just recap some of the important summary aspects of it. On page 5, you can see that SBI really is wanting to capitalize on the benefits of digital assets that are not found in the existing financial services. SBI is basically 3 arms: financial, asset management, and biotech. And on page 7, they have 230 group companies, 23 million customers, and thanks to Mr. Kitao, 22% of his managers are female. I'm really happy for that because in Japan, this is a very male-dominated sector, but in SBI, 22% are female. On page 14, you're going to see that they are steadily progressing their initiatives in cryptocurrency and digital assets. On page 20, you're going to want to make a notation of these 2 names. Mamoru Fujimoto, he is the general manager of blockchain promotional department, and Mr. Takashi Okita, he is the CEO of SBI Ripple Asia. Mr. Okita says that blockchain is a game changer, and MoneyTap, which is going to use XRP, will roll out to the consortium of members. Mr. Fujimoto, he says that the aggressive seeding that has taken place with Ripple and R3 at this early stage has led them to a very competitive position in blockchain. SBI is number 1 in terms of rank for securities. They are number 1 in terms of online banking with the Sumishin bank. They are number one in satisfaction for different insurances. You can see by looking at this particular document how powerful this partnership is going to be. Okay, everybody, I am jumping to the fluff. And what do I mean by fluff? I mean, I'm going to talk about Japan. And if you are new to this channel, I usually talk about something in regards to culture. Well, you all know that my dad was just here, and I took a break for the first time in nearly a year for only, 6 days, I think I was away. Feels great to be back, but here I'll show you a picture of the two of us in front of the oldest temple in Tokyo. And we had a great time. He left last night, went back to the United States. And in my thinking about how his trip went, I thought of a list of 10 things to do to make your trip to Japan even better. So here goes my list, and I'm going to share it with you because any of you who have plans to come to Japan, I think this will be helpful. Number one, get into shape because Americans just drive too much everywhere. And in this city, you need to be not only good at walking, but you have to be, on occasion, good with stairs. So there's a lot of walking to see a lot of the things you want to see when you come. So get into shape. Number two, definitely put into your budget some money for taxis, because you don't want to be so tired that you feel like you want to go home and rest. You have a very short period of time to see everything, so you want to keep your energy level so that you're having a good time. You're going to have some jet lag when you're here, especially the first 3 days. So be aware that if you get tired, have that money in your budget so that you don't feel bad and you can just jump in a cab. Now, how much money do you need? I don't know. It depends how many taxis you want to take. But at least put an extra $30 US into your budget so that you feel free to jump in a taxi when you really are dragging your feet. And learn how the money works. Don't just change your money at the airport and then hold your hand out and expect people to take out the right amount. Learn how much all the coin are. It's not difficult. It really isn't. And learn how much the bills are worth. And have your addresses that you want to visit written in Japanese. So that's the fourth thing I wrote, because you might want to ask somebody for help, or you might want to give those directions to a taxi cab driver. Just have them available written in English. And then number 5, bring a backpack. And why? Because if it gets warm or if it gets cold, you want to be able to wear things in a layered fashion. So you can easily either put something away if you're warm or take something out if you're cold. I know it sounds kind of simple, but just be sure to bring a backpack. And in addition to that, because it's so difficult to find a garbage can in Tokyo, sometimes you have to carry your own garbage back home, and you want to not carry it in your hands. You want to be hands-free when you are in that kind of tourist position. So you can put your garbage in a bag that you've brought with you. And also, too, if you're buying some souvenirs, you don't want to carry a bag. Just put it in your backpack behind. And then the other thing that I found that my dad struggled with a little bit is that, to go in and out of the gates for the trains is you have to pull out your prepaid card. You don't use money, but you just tap your card on top of the sensor here. And if you have your card inside your wallet, people move very fast in Tokyo, and if you stop in front of the gates to find your card to tap, it's very frustrating for everybody. You just want to be one of those fish that are going with the flow and with the traffic. So have that card readily available. And how you do that is you buy one of these card holders. And you can, of course, put it in your pocket or wear it around your neck. So you can see here, this person here is modeling how it's worn around the neck. But it really, truly will save you some frustration of pulling it out every time you want to go through the gates. Okay, the next thing I said is history. It's really important to learn the history of Japan. This country has never been invaded by any other country, so the history is very unique. And I'm not talking about just the last 100 years of history either. I'm talking about 500 years back to current modern day. Because everything that you see will make more sense. So please study the history and also learn how the balance of power has shifted over the centuries. Learn the difference between Buddhism and Shinto. And the ninth thing is, when in Tokyo, when you are on an escalator, always stay to the left. So you come down on the left, you go up on the left. And you think this is silly, but people are really on the move in Tokyo. And if you are not aware that everybody stands to the left so people can pass, you're going to be a big clog in the wheel. And it is just one of those frustrations that I think foreigners have. I see it happen all the time. But you don't want to be one of those clogs in the wheel, and so stay to the left. Now, if you go to Kansai, which is the west side of Japan, they do the opposite. They stand on the right. So depending on where you are, Tokyo's on the left, and the west side of Japan is on the right. And last but not least, I didn't have a set of these. I should have. These are what are called fun chops. And you can attach them to any chopstick so that if you are not proficient in using chopsticks, with this little device or tool or attachment, you can easily then work a chopstick so that you can eat. And unless you're carrying your own knife and fork, and spoon you can usually find. Knife and fork in a lot of these restaurants is a little more challenging. So you don't want to be stuck without being able to enjoy your meal if you're not proficient with the chopsticks. So invest in a very handy tool here, which is called a fun chop. And the one thing I will tell you that was so disappointing is the fish market has moved to Toyosu, and it's a different location than the old location, which was near Ginza just a few months ago. They no longer let visitors down on the market floor. And when you go, you have observation windows. And the observation windows were so disappointing. You have a very tiny little slit in the ceiling where you can peer down and see the wholesalers doing their trade. And it's just not worth it, unfortunately. So I am going to tell you to cross off the wholesale market. It's just not worth it at all, unfortunately. I was so sad to see this. And last but not least, the most successful meal. So I'm sure if you are eating sushi in your country now, you'll have no problem with fish, whether it's on top of rice or by itself as in sashimi. But if you're a meat and potatoes guy and you are a little bit afraid of the raw seafood, I recommend Yakiniku. And Yakiniku is a place where the actual barbecue is at your table. And this was the biggest hit for my dad. Now, Yakiniku is traditionally kind of Korean style food, but the Japanese have done it in their way and have made it localized and very Japanese and very yummy. And you will have a great time eating Yakiniku. If you're vegetarian, boy, not Yakiniku. But if you are a meat eater, especially a meat and potatoes kind of guy, this is what I recommend. Okay, everybody, that's all I have for you today. I'm so glad to be back. Do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.